So please do know that it is being recorded, and also the transcript is being loaded as well. So I do have a note that says, let everyone know you're being recorded and transcribed. So you are being recorded and transcribed as we start. One more thing I want to show you, if you do like to have captions, I love to turn on captions on the television whenever I'm watching it. So if you've gotten used to having captions and you want to turn those on, you can come into the More menu. If you're in the Teams desktop, it will be in this upper right-hand area. If you're in the web version, it will be down here about this lower third. When you select More, you'll see Turn on Live Captions, and it will go ahead and open those captions for you right here on the bottom, and you can have those captions as I'm moving through things. All right, so I'm going to move into our PowerPoint here. What we're going to talk about today is just cloud storage and sharing in OneDrive. We'll look a little bit at SharePoint simply because, or Teams, if you are using Teams, it's basically a SharePoint site. So whether you're using Teams for sharing files or if you're using a SharePoint document library, we'll be able to access both of those the same way. And we can do all of that using OneDrive online. That's one way we can get to all of those. So we'll be looking at that as well. Just a couple of notes about OneDrive. OneDrive is your personal storage in SharePoint. So I know that we typically say OneDrive, Teams, and SharePoint. Uh, Basically, though, it is SharePoint is the foundation. So when you're building a house and you pour your slab down, or I know being in New Orleans, we have, I'm in Baton Rouge, we have some lifted houses. So any of that foundation for your house is going to be SharePoint. It's going to be the place where everything resides. OneDrive just happens to be your own virtual filing cabinet on the SharePoint server. And then Teams and SharePoint document libraries are those shared spaces. So if we keep going with the house metaphor, SharePoint's that foundation, OneDrive is your bedroom, and then Teams and SharePoint document libraries. We're from Louisiana. We all gather in the kitchen, sometimes in the living room, mostly in the kitchen. That's what Teams and SharePoint are. Those more public spaces on that foundation is going to be SharePoint and Teams. So with Health New Orleans, what you have is 5 terabytes of space. I really wish I had a visual for what that looks like. It is a ginormous amount of space that is for your own personal files. You can access OneDrive. You can put it on your phone. You can put it on you can access it via the web, and you can access it, of course, on your desktop, and we'll look at how to get to all of those locations. This is just a view of what it looks like when it's on your phone. One of the nice things about having OneDrive on your phone is there is a camera built in to the mobile app that can act as a scanner. So if you do need to ever scan documents and put them in your OneDrive, and you're used to going, I know I have a printer by my machine, by my computer, and I'll have a thumb drive in my printer. I can scan things that way, but once I put OneDrive on my phone, I can just click on that camera right here and I can scan documents, any documents that I need to add to my OneDrive right there. So that's what those look like. When we are adding, we can add OneDrive to our desktop, and we're going to do that now. So let's talk about accessing it on the web first. One of the things that I like to do is I like to open up a web browser right here. And then from the web browser, I'll close some of these. I'll go to office.com. And from you, that's all you have to remember is office.com. You don't have to remember the HTTPS or any of that. Just type in office.com. What you'll do is if you have not logged in yet, so I'll sign out here, it will take you to a screen that looks like this. It'll just say, it won't say your name here, but it will allow you to sign in. So when you come to this office area here, one thing to note, of course, the Office app is becoming the Microsoft 365 app. I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but if you're used to this logo here, I guess this is going to be the new logo that we're going to see. It'll probably make it a little bit easier. Anyone who is used to the Office suite may think that that's the limit to what you get with Microsoft 365, but it is not. We have gone way beyond Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and OneNote and have added many, many more apps to the Microsoft 365 sphere. So that must be what that change is. But once you come to office.com, you'll just click sign in. Make sure you sign in using your work or school account, and then you'll enter your password. I'm not sure if there's an additional security feature, like it'll text you a code, or if you use the Duo to send a push to you for any of that authentication. But if you do have that, then you'll have to do that extra level of authentication. And you'll get in to staying signed in. So you'll sign in here. And once you're in office.com, there used to be a OneDrive over here. What we see now are just those typical, what we're used to Office 365 apps over here. If we want to see the plethora of new apps, there are two places we can go. We can go into the app launcher up here and we'll see those apps. Or we can click on all apps down at the bottom and then we'll see more apps here. I'm going to click on the app launcher. My preference, if you do see this My Content here, this is not OneDrive, the OneDrive that I'm used to anyway. So I typically won't use this My Content area. I'll show you what it looks like. It gives you these different, this menu, this new menu here, and then it gives you all of your most recent files. I don't prefer this view. So what I will do is I'll come to the app launcher up here and I will go to OneDrive right here. This is my preference. I find that it's a much easier way to access all of your files without having to figure out this menu over here. I don't really want to do that. So I'm going to come here to the app launcher and I'm going to click on OneDrive right there. So when I'm on OneDrive, what I can do is I can see all of my files here. The other thing, if I don't have OneDrive uh, for the desktop, what we can do is we can click on Sync right here. And when we click Sync here, what that's going to do is it's going to open OneDrive on the desktop. And I'm going to close this right here. What I'll see is I'll see the OneDrive down here. So these are the OneDrives that I have. This is actually my OneDrive for this particular account. So if you do, oh, okay, I see we have a thing that says the OneDrive app must need to be updated because oh, you don't have the camera on your OneDrive on your phone. So you may want to make sure the app is updated. And that's a thank you for pointing that out. And it may have moved too, but mine's right there in the middle, just like it is in the picture. Um, it might have moved, but I don't know if it has. I wonder if you could, another place that you can go if you don't see the camera, and I'm glad that you wrote that. If you don't happen to see the camera right here, you may be able to click on the plus sign and then you'll have the option to take a photo or scan. So let me know if you click on the plus sign in the app on your phone, and let me know if scan or take a photo is available to you there, because that might be another way. If you don't see the camera in this middle part right here, if you click the plus sign here, you should be able to see the scan option
I
or the
found
take a
it.
photo. Oh, perfect. Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you. I
I
found it
love
when
it.
I clicked on the plus sign. Thank you.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay, good. Um, so once you've synced here from OneDrive online, you should be able to find your OneDrive app down here. And when we click on our OneDrive app, we'll be able to see all of our stuff that we have. We can come into our settings, and one of the things that I love to point out is if you're working on a rather large file and you've opened it in the desktop and you're working on it on your desktop, but it's also syncing to the cloud and it's causing any lagging issues for you. A good idea is to come to your OneDrive app and pause the syncing. So go ahead and just, when you see pause syncing, you can pause it for the next 8 hours or 2 hours or however long. What that's going to allow you to do is it will allow you to work locally on the file that you have open on your desktop, and it won't continue to sync back to the cloud, causing some of those lagging issues, especially if you have several people working on the file at the same time. If you're not going to work on it in the web version, so if you're not going to come online, open it in OneDrive on the web, if you'd rather use the desktop version of Word, PowerPoint, Excel, any of those things, what I have found is when you're collaborating in documents, pausing this OneDrive from syncing is usually a really good thing to do. So anyone who's in the document, if everyone could come in and pause syncing, it will make a difference. But once you have OneDrive here, you can control syncing and all of those things. You can also access it if you're using Windows. You can access it from your File Explorer. You'll see your OneDrive here. All of the files that I have in, and I love to put these side by side just to show. So all of my folders over here, I have folders over here. So I can get to all the documents that I need either in the web or on my desktop. Another advantage for having OneDrive on your desktop is when you're working, if I open a Word document here, and we're just talking about accessing files and saving files right now. So if I'm working on a file, I want to make sure I'm logged into the right one. When I go, if I'm opening a new document in any of the Office programs, and I come here to File, and I want to save it to the cloud. So if I come in, I'm working on the document, I click on File and I go to Save. The options that I have here is my option to save it to OneDrive. So I can click on OneDrive here. All of these folders here are the same ones that we've seen here and here. So all of these files are there. The one thing that I also want to point out is this option that looks like that SharePoint. This is the SharePoint um, logo that, or the icon for SharePoint. If you do have any Teams locations or any SharePoint shared document libraries, you can click on this sites right here. What that will do is it will show you all of your teams and then any of the channels. So here is my digital and professional learning staff team. And then I can save it to, if I click on documents here, These are all of the channels that I have within that team that I can save information to. So you not only have the option when you're working in the desktop apps, PowerPoint, Word, Excel, when you go to File and Save, you not only have the option to save it to your OneDrive, you also have the option to save it to any of those shared point spaces. So that's one way that you can get to all of your shared spaces. I'm going to close this. And now we're going to come back here. All right, so that is how you get to saving to OneDrive from any of your Office um, apps that you're going to use. So you do have the option to save it to OneDrive or to shared spaces. And same thing, you can find all of those folders here, just give it a name, place it where you want to save the file, and now it's on the cloud. The nice thing about saving it to the cloud is once you've saved it there, you don't have to click save again. It's going to automatically be syncing to the cloud because you have that running in the background. And that's where if you want, even when you pause syncing here, once you start syncing again, all those changes are going to go up to the cloud. So you won't have to worry about saving. Once you've added it to the cloud, that auto save turns on. And let me show you that. So once we're creating, let's say we created this Word document, we went to save. We're going to save it to our OneDrive location. I'm going to put this in my demo docs location, give my file a name. I know we're not supposed to capitalize prepositions, but just going to do it this time. Once I've done that and I've saved it to a cloud location, I don't know if you've noticed, but this auto save is now turned on. As long as this word right here says saved, you don't have to worry about anything. So we can make any changes we need to make to it. We can add text. We can add images. So I grew up in uh, South Louisiana and I love coffee. So I always show pictures of any kind of coffee. Of course, the darker the better, the more robust the better. And I had a really sweet Cajun grandma who fed me coffee milk. So I do like it a little sweet too. So I do love coffee. We can add other things, tables, just like we insert anything that we're used to in our Word documents. As I'm adding it, you see I'm coming up here and I'm going to see saving. So it's saving it right now. If I try and close it, I think it'll let me, but I don't know if it has saved everything because I closed it while it was saying saving. But let's see. We can come online and access that document. So I can come up here and access that document. You'll see because it's new, it has that little sparkle on it. I'm going to click that. We'll see. We should have coffee in there. We should have a table and we have text. So it did save it even though I closed it when it said saving. It did save all of that. So we could access it online. We can also access it here. When we come here, we're going to see, we should be able to see. Oh, it's paused. We can't see it here yet because I paused syncing. But if I come here and resume syncing, then we should, there we go. We should see it there. And now it's in my desktop version of OneDrive as well. And if I open it here, we're going to be able to open it right there. It's going to stay in the cloud. So there's no reason for me to do file save as again. any new information that I add here will show up. It will show up if I just close this again. I'm adding it to my desktop version. If I go online, now I can see it here as well. So I'm going to be able to see all of that. So you can see that as soon as I save it to the cloud, it is everything I do is automatically saved and it's accessible to anyone that this document is shared with and to me. So I'm going to pause here and see if we have any questions about OneDrive Desktop, OneDrive Online, making changes, opening documents. But let me stop right there. Before I do that, I do want to show you if you are working on, let's say you're working at home and you're accessing your work files from your home computer. So you do go to OneDrive, to office.com here. You go into your OneDrive, and then I'm going to close this right here. I'm going to close the Word doc right here too. So let's say I'm working at home. I'm accessing my files browser. This saving in OneDrive file. And if I want to work on it in Word on the desktop, all I have to do is come to this editing menu here. When I select the down arrow, I can choose open in desktop app. So if I want to, I can use it in the desktop app by coming to it from Office, from OneDrive Online. When I select open in the desktop app, it will open Word on my desktop, but everything that I do is still saving to the cloud, and I can double check that by looking here. Seeing autosave is on right here. The other thing that I can do is I can see the name of the file, and if I click on the down arrow, I'll see exactly where from. It came from Box, and that's on my OneDrive Online. So you can access your files from the web, but edit them in the desktop app. So that's another option. So I am going to stop talking for a minute and see if we have any questions about what we just went over. I see we have a hand raised. Yes.
Hi, Mary. Can you hear me?
Hello. I can.
Okay. I want to go back to your syncing. Is there any way to control your syncing? In other words, I may be interested in syncing stuff at home with stuff at work, but I don't necessarily want things from home on my work computer, or maybe vice versa.
Right. So the rule of thumb usually is keep your work files on your work computer and then keep your personal files on your personal computer. If you need though to access your work files, let's say that you're home, you left your laptop, let's say you went home for the weekend, your laptop was left in the office, you need to get to those work files. Just because you open them in the desktop app doesn't mean they're going to be saved to your desktop. Does that make sense? You'll still be working in the cloud as long as you don't download the OneDrive app to your personal computer.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I think we have another hand up.
Hey, Mary, this is Karen. My question is, do you have to have your files saved into SharePoint first in order to be able to sync them into OneDrive, or can you just put them into OneDrive?
You can just put them into OneDrive. You don't have to. SharePoint is only really if you need to share with a group of people. If you're going to start, and we can get into that when we get into sharing, we'll start talking about when you should share to the SharePoint sites and when you should share to your OneDrive. So
Okay.
let's talk about that next. But you don't have to have any SharePoint document libraries if you don't want them. You don't A team, if you create teams, you just automatically have a shared document library because that comes when you create the team.
Right.
But yeah, but you don't have to have those first.
Okay,
And
thank you.
you're welcome. So that's a great, let's move into sharing now, and we'll talk about that. When to share from OneDrive and when to share using a SharePoint document library. All right, so let's go back here and let's talk about that now. So we're going to, all right, let's get into our sharing. So this is just kind of creating documents. We looked at creating a document there. So this is a note that from internal IT specific for your accounts is if you need to collaborate on work with users at an external institution, then you can suggest a team or a SharePoint site from IT, or you can request one from them. So if you're sharing internally and it's documents that you need to just share with other people inside your organization, a good rule of thumb is if it's going to be a few people who need to access this file, sharing from OneDrive is completely fine. There shouldn't be many issues. If you though are going to, if you need to have a lot of people accessing this document, or if there's any risk of someone leaving the organization, what you want to do is share that through Teams or SharePoint. So when it's shared from OneDrive, it's dependent on the owner giving access to it. If it moves to a different location, if the person happens to leave the organization, access to it can get interrupted. Once it's put in a team or in a SharePoint document library, even if it's moved to a different folder within the team or a different folder within the SharePoint document library, share access isn't interrupted, but it can get interrupted if someone moves it from one folder to another in their own OneDrive. Simply because anytime you create or anytime you click on share, what you're doing is you're creating a share link and a share path. So the path only knows to go to the location where the document was originally. If you move it to a new folder, you're going to have to create new share links. I hope that makes sense. So let's look at kind of what that looks like. When we come in so here's a document. Let's say I'm working on this. I'm going to collaborate with other people on it. What I want to do is I want to share the document. I can do that from within Word, from Word Online, or if I go to the desktop app again, I'm also going to be able to share it from the desktop version. I have that share button here. And when I select share, what I always like to tell people is don't just click copy link right here. There's a lot of information that you need to think about when you're sharing documents. So I always suggest that you use this share right here. When you select share, a couple of things that you'll notice, and this one hasn't been shared yet, but what you'll see, mine defaults to anyone with the link can edit. In your share environment, it's going to default right here to people. I think it's going to default to people in your environment with the link. So this is what it's going to default to right here. But there's a lot more that you can do here. You can choose if you want them to have editing privileges. But you can also choose if you want them to only be able to view the document. When you choose Can View, the thing to remember is if you allow people in your organization to view the document, they'll still be able to copy and paste, and they'll still be able to download the document and make a copy for themselves. Those are two things that people can do even if you aren't giving them editing access. They can still view it, they can copy and paste information from it, and they can also create a copy of them for themselves by downloading it. One option that you have to prevent that is when you choose Can View, you'll see that this option to block download is available to you. So you can toggle this on. And if you choose to block download, what this will do is it will prevent anyone from copying and pasting information. It will also prevent anyone from saving a copy on their own device. Now, I want to show you, I do have another demo account. So I'm going to open my student account here. So let's say I'm in this document here. I'm only going to choose Can View. Let's say I want to share this with students or colleagues. I don't want them to edit the original. And I'm just going to say, well, I'm just going to let them view the document. I'm going to apply this here. And you'll see what I've done is I've created a link right here. The link is people in my organization with the link can view. So I'm going to copy this link. And now I'm going to go into this new person's account and I'm going to paste the link here. And let me just make sure I'm signed in. So from what I said before, someone can come in here and I think, yeah, they can download it if they want to. They can, they should be able to copy and paste information from here. They can print the document and they can share this document. So they can send this. They should only be able to send this to people inside the organization who have access to that link. So these are the access. This is the access that that view gives to people you share the document with. If we come in, and I'm going to close this link here. If we come into our document and we go to share again, I do like to click on the share menu. What you'll notice is I do have a share link already created. That's the one that I created where people in my organization can view the document. I also have access for this student because they used that share link. So what I want to do now though is I want to come in here and I want to do people in my organization can view, but I'm also going to block download. Now I'm going to apply this link and I'm going to, now you see that I have can view only, and then I have that little circle with a line, meaning they can't download it. I'm going to copy this link. I'm going to open this in a new person's window who hasn't already opened it. I'm going to paste the link here. And I think this is their password. Yes. So now what we'll see is there's really no access. Whenever I come here to that three-dot menu, there's no access to download it. They can't really click and highlight anything. They can share it, but it's only going to be people who have existing access. So that's anyone who's already opened the document from a share link. So there's nothing that this person can do with this document to save it to their own device copy and paste any of the information on it. It is as if I shared an image with them. So all they can do here is read the document. They can't save a copy, copy and paste, do any of that that to this document. So when you're sharing documents, it's important to think about what level of permission you want people to have. When you come in and just kind of copy this link right here, you need to make sure it's just going to give you the default. So I believe the default in your environment is people in my organization can edit. That's why I always let people know, don't just come here and do copy link. That's going to copy the default share link. Make sure you click on the share the share menu here so you can have more control over what exactly is sharing in with that link that you're giving people. So let's look. I do have some visuals here. I'm a visual learner, so I love to show images. When you're sharing, these are the options that you have. You have the option to share with people in your organization. That lets anyone in your organization to have unrestricted internal sharing. So they can share with anyone else within your organization. People with existing access is anyone who has already opened the link or anyone you've already given access to. Specific people is the best kind of restricted sharing because it only gives access to the people that you specify. So you do have to give their email address and they do have to log in using that email address in order to access the file. So let's look at this way. When you use people in your organization, here's the owner of the file. They share with this person in the organization. Well, this person can then go on and send that link to any of these other people in the organization because it's unrestricted internal access. That's what people in your organization link does. You can't, the only thing it restricts is from sending it to anyone, any external email addresses. If you share with people, with specific people, so let's say this person creates the file and they share it with this person inside the organization. This person cannot take the link and then share it anywhere else because only the person with that particular work or school account can have access to it. If they send the share link to another internal person or an external person, it will say access denied, or it'll give a request access response to anyone who tries to access that link. So these are some things to think about when you're sharing out the information. Anyone in the organization, of course, is very broad and gives unrestricted sharing within the organization. Specific people is the best option if it's a very private or confidential information that you don't want anyone to have access to. Of course, if you do the unrestricted internal access of sharing, but you don't want people to be able to save copies and copy and paste, you can always choose to select block download. So if anyone does get it or gets a link and they don't need access to it, they won't be able to change the original document or save a copy for themselves. So those are those sharing links. So let's look at what happens, and we'll come back to this in just a minute. Let's say that you've already shared a document out and you've used the unrestricted link, but you don't want that unrestricted link to stay active. You can always delete any share links that already exist. What you can do is when you come into your share right here, you'll go in, instead of going to share here, you'll choose manage access right here. When you select Manage Access, what you can do is you will see all the links that you have and what kind of access people have. So let's say you don't want people in your organization with the link to be able to view or edit or any of those things. So you can either choose to stop sharing everything, and then you can recreate share links and send those out. Or you can just choose the link that you want by selecting the three-dot menu and then selecting the X. So that way you can delete just that share link, and anyone who had that link who opened the document will no longer be able to have that level of access to your document. That is a lot that I just covered. So I do want to allow for questions. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute and see if we have any questions in the chat, and see if anyone has any questions that they want to ask about sharing. Remember, I will be putting this recording in this way, and I'll also make sure that we have a link specific to sharing information in this way as well. All right, so we'll come back here. So so that's how you can share from within Word, or same thing, you're going to have that share option in PowerPoint, Excel. If you want to share from within OneDrive, it'll be the same exact experience that we just talked about. In OneDrive, though, you can share on the folder level. So if you want to share the entire folder, you can come here. You can select share right here, or you can click the three-dot menu and go to the share menu right there. Same options that we have within Word. This is going to be unrestricted internal sharing here, or you can have unrestricted viewing access within your organization by doing can view and by blocking download, or you can choose specific people. If you choose specific people, let's say you want specific people to be able to add files to this folder, edit the files in this folder, you can choose this. And when you apply, you're going to have to put their email addresses here. And if they're inside your organization, you just have to start typing their name in here, and then you can send a message to them in Outlook this way. The other way you can share through Outlook is just to open up an Outlook message, and then you can attach the file to your email message. That's another way you can share via Outlook. So these are some ways that you can share on the folder level. It's also a way that you can share on the file level. You have the same options. This sharing environment is going to be the same no matter if you're sharing from within the app or from within OneDrive Online or from OneDrive on your desktop. Same exact thing. You'll come to OneDrive on your desktop. You can share on the folder level, right click, select share, or if you want to, you can open up the folder, right click on a document, share. You're going to see it's going to be the same thing. Click on there, same exact menu options right there as well. So that is how you share from OneDrive. Now, when you do this, what happens is you're limited. This needs to stay exactly where it is. I can't click on this and drag it into a new folder, because then all those share links are going to be broken. So that is one thing. If you do need to move this somewhere else, you're going to have to reshare it from that new location. If you want to share with people outside of your organization, what you will have to do is request a team or a SharePoint site from IT, and then they can create that Teams environment for you. I do want to show you where you can get to that. If you do create a team or if you do create a SharePoint site, if you come to OneDrive online, so let's say we're in office.com, we're going to come into OneDrive online here. What we'll see is this top part is going to be all of our OneDrive files right here. And then you can see there's kind of a gray line right there. I'm going to see if I can zoom in so we can see that better. Ooh, it just takes everything away. We see this gray line right here. This is all of my OneDrive files. And then these are all of my Teams or SharePoint files right there. So it's a nice way for me to access all of the files all at one time. And if I need to get into my Teams or SharePoint files, I just click down here and I can see those files right here. I can move and copy documents from one place to another. If I'm in my OneDrive files and I want to move or copy, let's say this saving in OneDrive document, what I can do is from OneDrive Online, I can click on the button in front, and then I have some options up here. One of the things is I can copy it. So let's say I don't want to move it because I want to keep the original in my OneDrive, but I want to copy it because I want to share it with people in my team, especially with any external people who need access. I can copy this too. And what it's going to allow is it's going to show me other places in my OneDrive, or I can click a Teams location, a Teams folder, and then I can copy it. So now what I'm going to do is have the original here, and then I'm going to have a copy in here. And I'll have that copy right here. So the group can work on the copy together, and my original doesn't get changed at all. Another thing that you can do is if you need access to this shared folder, but you want to have access to this folder in your OneDrive desktop version, what you can do is you can create a shortcut. So we can come here and let's say we're going to go to documents. And let's say I need this research project shared folder. I can select this here, and then I can add a shortcut to my files. And this will give me a shortcut to this shared folder in my OneDrive. So I already have the shortcut there. So if I come into my files here, I should be able to see the research project. And there's that shortcut here. If I come into File Explorer, I'll be able to see that I have access to that research project right here as well. So this is how I can give myself access to my shared files in my OneDrive. I want to see if we have any questions about that. All right, so now that we're in our OneDrive on the desktop, one of the things that you'll notice is I have clouds, and then I have green check marks. What this allows me to do is this allows me to see what folders and files are Wi-Fi dependent and what files and folders are not Wi-Fi dependent. Anything that's in the cloud, I'll need to be connected to the internet to access those files because everything's being stored in the cloud. You can store some things to your desktop And anything that has this green circle are things that are being filed on, not really my desktop, but it's being stored in my memory in my local drive. What I can do is I can right click on a folder or a file, and I can choose to always keep on this device. So it's always going to be syncing, and the latest version is going to be available to me, whether I'm connected to the internet or not. Or if I want to free up my disk space and my memory, I can choose to free up space. And that way it's not going to be available to me if I don't have Wi-Fi connection. This is a good thing to think about if you're going to be traveling with your laptop or a portable device and you want to make sure that you have access to that latest. These are the files that are being synced. Um, whether whenever you connect to Wi-Fi, it just goes and syncs and make sure it keeps the latest version for you on your device. So if you're going to be traveling and you need to have access to those files to be able to update them, let's say you're going to be flying somewhere and you're going to be working on a plane, what you'll want to do is before you leave your office, you'll want to make sure you right click and choose to always keep on this device. That way, if you get into your device on the plane, you don't need to connect to Wi-Fi. You can make any changes you need to that device. When you connect to Wi-Fi, it will sync to the cloud. So anyone you're sharing those files with will have the latest version, or those updates. It'll make sure it updates that shared file or that file to OneDrive for you. So that's what this cloud means, or the green check. Anything with the green check is stored always on your device, and anything with the cloud, you would need to be able to connect to the internet to get the latest version. See if we have any questions. So can you share a PDF file for others to edit as needed? I think as long as they have the ability to edit PDF files, you can do the same thing that you can do if it's in your OneDrive. You can share that out for them to edit. What I found is if I open a PDF in the Edge browser, then I typically have editing access for it. But it depends on the level of access you have for editing PDFs. I do know if you have a PDF and you want to be able to make it an editable copy, you can open PDFs in Word, and Word will convert the PDF to a Word document. And then once it's edited by everyone, you can actually print it back out as a PDF, and it'll have all of those changes added to it. So let's see. All right. So I think that's a great question. Let's see. I think we have, when you are sharing out with people, if you're in the same file together, you can see anyone in your organization, you'll be able to see either their images or their initials, and everyone shows up in a different color when they're editing that document. The other thing that you can do, if you do share out your document and someone makes changes to it and you don't want to keep those changes, there is a thing called version history in Word or PowerPoint or Excel. And to get to version history, you can get there several ways. One way is you can come into OneDrive, click on the three-dot menu, and you can look at version history this way. And it'll just show you who edited the document, and you can go to the different versions. The other thing you can do is open the document. You can click on File, and I believe if you go to, I think this might only be in, oh no, there you go. Go to File and Info. It's in version. You can see your version history here. This will open up a sidebar where you can go and select that version. So let's say I'm going to select this one. I can see what was added. And if I want to, I can save a copy of this, or I can go back a couple of versions and save a copy of this one or restore. Or I can go back to the very original one and I can restore it to the original version. The other way you can get to version history is to click where the file name is, select that down arrow, you'll see version history right there. Again, same thing, you can see all of those different changes. And then just by clicking on the versions, it will tell you who modified it. If it's within your organization, you'll be able to see that person's name. Well, if they had to log in with an account to see the document, it'll show you who changed the document. I believe it shows the late, like 35, the 35 latest versions. Other things you can do is you can go to catch up. If anything was changed when you open the document again, it will show you have activity to catch up on. When you click it, you'll see who was in the document while you were gone and what they did to the document. That's another place where you can see things. The last thing I want to show you is if anything gets deleted, you do have the ability to go into your recycle bin here. I do love to show the recycle bin on the online version because this part I'm about to show you is only available in OneDrive Online. When you go to the recycle bin, you can see things that were deleted. You do have something that's called the second stage recycle bin in OneDrive Online right there. When you click the second stage recycle bin, it gives you everything that has been deleted for the past 93 days. So it keeps the second stage recycle bin, keeps everything here for 93 days. So that is a way that you can get to files that were accidentally deleted. Even if you empty your recycle bin and you don't see anything in there, you can go into the recycle bin. I'll empty it. Then what I can do is I can go to the second stage recycle bin, and these will stay here for 93 days. So that's the last thing I wanted to show. I'm going to stop presenting here. I do see we have our hand up. So if you want to come off mute.
It's Karen again, sorry. I don't think I understood. When you said that you can go to the recycle bin from the web, does that mean if you delete something on your desktop, will it be in the web? Okay.
Yes. So if you delete it so as long as you delete it from your OneDrive Online, it won't go in, you won't be able to see anything that you've actually deleted from like your computer drive. But if you delete it, so it's probably better for me to show you up here. Anything that you've deleted in your OneDrive right here will show in your OneDrive recycle bin online and the second stage recycle bin. Anything that's deleted down here, from your PC,
Right.
because it's not saved to the cloud, it won't. But anything deleted here from your OneDrive will show. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I do see we have a question that it says, will it show the actual changes? So if you are looking in version history, yes, it will show the actual changes and they should show up in, I think mine showed up in a red color. So anything that was shown in red were the changes that were made to that document. If you want, another thing that you can do is before you share your document, I will show this one other thing. Before you share your document, you can go into the review menu here and you can choose to track changes. So if you want, you can go into track changes and choose for everyone. That way you can choose if the changes that are made are accepted or denied. So if it's a document that you need to share out with other people, but you want to have the last word on if the changes are accepted or not, rather than rely on version history, come into the review menu here and select track changes for everyone. That way, when people make the changes, the document actually won't accept them until you accept them. And if people make changes, then you'll have the option to accept changes or reject the changes. And that's another way to kind of protect your information from people just coming in and editing a document willy-nilly. Right. So I do want to honor your time because I do know that it's lunchtime. Hopefully you were able to eat lunch while we had this. I will be updating this way with the recording. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now. I will update that sway